Hello everyone, I'm John Bussart. I'm an HP Solution Center engineer for Ingram Micro. I help support servers, blade systems, storage, as well as networking technology solutions from HP. In this series, we're going to store the 3Par StoreServ solutions. And what I plan on doing is showing you a slide from a popular PowerPoint that you might see, and then I'm going to demonstrate to you what that means within the 3Par Management Console. So let's begin. So we're going to continue on our conversation with the dynamic and adaptive optimization slide. If you haven't seen the dynamic optimization video, I might recommend that you go back and look at that. But for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to briefly overview dynamic optimization. So dynamic optimization allows us to take our virtual volumes, the volumes that we present the system, and move them between different policies of storage within our infrastructure, and we move them based on common provisioning groups, or CPGs as they're abbreviated. But the part of these CPGs could be different types of settings, things like drive type, RPM type, RAID level type. So that's where we kind of get our tiers of storage. So with dynamic optimization, I could place my volume on SAS drives, but if some business driver says that, hey, we need more performance out of that volume, I can actually live and on the fly migrate that volume up to SSD drive, or if for some reason that application is not used as much anymore, I can move it down to SATA drives. All right, so this is a manual process. I have to go into the 3Par Management Console and actually make that migration. Also, the entire volume moves between these different storage tiers. That differs as far as from adaptive optimizations, which is what we want to spend the majority of our time talking about. With adaptive optimization, this is a way of setting up the storage solution to actually manage the chunks of data, the blocks of data in the environment across these storage tiers. Right? So it kind of is an automatic feature. I kind of look at this as kind of a cloud type of approach of managing storage, because I got kind of a hands-off approach or very minimal management to it. Also, my volume will exist across all storage tiers. So the example I like to give is maybe you have a multi-year database, and last year's data is really hot, but the data from 10 years ago isn't really all that hot anymore. What will happen is with adaptive optimization, it'll take the chunks of data that represent last year and migrate those just up to SSD drives, and the data that's maybe 10 years old it'll move down to SATA drives. But if for some reason that 10-year-old data becomes hot again, there's a lot of people accessing it again, it'll start moving those chunks of data back up through the storage tier. So it'll move it up to SAS storage, and it'll move it up to SSD storage in the environment. Right? Again, this is something you set up once, you schedule it, and you allow the storage system to manage itself on an ongoing basis. It allows you to get the maximum performance for the volume, for the parts of the blocks of your data that need the maximum performance, but allows you to save money on storage costs by putting less used information, blocks of data, down on SSD drive. So again, the virtual volume, the volume you present to a system, actually exists across all storage tiers. All right, so let's take a look at this and see how this looks within the 3Par Management Console. So here's the 3Par Management Console. The virtual volume that we have presented to a system today is this dynamic volume. And I've presented it to this DL385G7. Right? This is actually the same volume we used in our dynamic optimization video. Right? So here's that DL385G7 server, and this is actually that volume. It's filled up because I am actually running Iometer against that. I'm getting about 1,000 IOPS out of it, which is pretty good. Well, if you don't know what Iometer is, it's an open source program that allows you to run different access specifications against a different volume. So you could really aggressively go at volume and look at its performance metrics by just kind of looking at this chart. What I have as far as access specifications is I'm actually running a 50% read and a 100% random against this inside my environment. All right, so 50% read, 50% write, and then 100% random. All right, so let's go down and look at the performance of this volume. First, we'll look at the physical disks. Let this chart out. I'm going to try to get all the disks in one picture here. So each one of these columns is a drive within our storage solution. I know it's tough to read, but these are nearline 7K RPM drives. Those happen to be the drives that we're using right now. And then I have fast class drives or SAS drives within my solution. That's kind of this white space that we're not using. The only thing I have actually running work against this storage solution is actually this DL385 and this Iometer specification. So we're getting pretty decent IOPS out of each one of these SATA disks. 300 IOPS is not bad. Let's take a look at the actual IOPS we're getting out of the virtual volume itself. So I'm going to select Custom, Virtual Volume IOPS. Move to the next screen. We'll make sure our storage system is selected. We'll select Virtual Volumes. Here's that dynamic volume that we've been working with. IOs per second, and I actually want to look at read and write, and just for fun we'll change the color. Add that in, next, and then finish. So we'll give this a few seconds to populate. So it's already scaled up to about 1,000 IOPS. All right, looks like we're a little higher than 1,000 IOPS. It's starting to chart right here. And that, as you'll notice, will jive with what we're seeing inside Iometer, about 1,000 IOPS to 1,300 IOPS. All right. So let's go back and look at this virtual volume. First off, why is this virtual volume only using SATA drives? Right. And also, this storage system is certainly very high performance. Why are we only getting about 1,000 IOPS out of this? All right. So let's go back over to provisioning. Let's look at our volume and look at the settings of this volume. So this volume is selected a policy to place storage in the environment, a CPG of slow. So CPGs, again, are policies for how we send our blocks of data in the environment. Part of these policies, we can set things like RAID level, drive type, and RPM. Right, so let's explore this slow CPG. I'm going to select that. All right, it's selected up and above. We're looking at the settings. All right, this slow CPG is using nearline drives that are running at 7K RPM, and I'm doing a RAID 6. So this is about as slow as I can make this storage system. And again, this is the policy we're using for that dynamic volume, which we're presenting to our DL385, and we're running Iometer against. Okay, I have other storage policies created within the environment, so let's look at those pretty quickly. And so I have a mid-tier that uses fast class drives, SAS drives, that are running at 10K RPM and run a RAID 5. I also have another storage tier that's fast, that's going to select, again, fast class drives, so SAS drives that run at 10K RPM and at RAID level 1. So this would be the fastest performing tier I have inside this environment. Right. So, like I had mentioned before, certainly with this solution, I should be able to get more IOPS. And I can go into provisioning, look at my virtual volume, right-click, and select Tune Virtual Volume, and actually select another storage tier inside the environment, another one of those CPGs. And this is dynamic optimization. This is what we showed in our last video. Right? So this is a manual process, and I'd be moving my entire volume to one of those other policies inside this infrastructure. Right, so I want to set up something that's a little more automated, something that I kind of schedule, and something that will allow my volume to exist across all storage tiers. So I do that through adaptive optimization. So over here we have adaptive optimization configuration. So let's select that. I have nothing set up right now. So what I'm going to do is right-click, create an adaptive optimization configuration. Certainly we get the summary screen or the welcome screen. Move forward, give it a name. Let's call it test adaptive optimization. We'll select our storage tiers. So I'll select at the top tier fast, mid, and then slow. So these are the policies that I created, the CPGs, right, and that kind of divide up the storage that I have in the environment. We're going to move forward. All right, I don't have to set up a schedule with an adaptive optimization configuration, but it would not really do much for me. Because it would just be a configuration and no action would be taken against that configuration. So I'm going to put start or schedule adaptive optimization configurations, and I could have multiple schedules that run for this adaptive optimization configuration. I could have maybe something run at midnight to realign disks in one way, and then something run in the morning to realign disks a different way. Right, so we're going to run ours now, but just so I can show you the full features of the scheduler, I'm going to do create schedule. Right, we certainly would need to give it a name, and then select how often I want this to run and at what time. So maybe I'm having an issue at 9 o'clock, right? So maybe I want to run an adaptive optimization at 8 o'clock, right? And I want to look at the storage maybe from 24 hours ago to 23 hours ago. So just the hour before 9 o'clock, right? That's what I'm actually setting, is the measurement interval that I want to actually look at performance metrics of the storage, right? And then when I actually want to run this in the environment. And up here is a maximum runtime for how long I want it to run. So I might set this for like an hour if I only want it to run an hour. That might be a little bit short, but we'll leave this at 6 hours. I'm actually, like I said before, we're going to run this now, so we're not going to put a schedule in there. And I'm actually going to look at data from 12 hours ago up until I run this adaptive optimization configuration. I'm also going to take the check mark out of Analyze Only, because if you do Analyze Only, it's just going to tell you what it's going to do inside the reports, and it's not actually going to move any blocks of data around. So we're going to uncheck that. Oops, let's fix that. That won't work. Do 12 hours ago. Next, and then Finish. Right. Now we should be able to go look under Recent Tasks, see some things happen. We see a couple things happen. We see a background command for a start adaptive optimization. We also see region moves start to happen as well. Right. So let's go down to the performance and reports and see what's going on. So our IOPS are still going. Right. So it looks like we're getting about 1,000 IOPS. Maybe we've suffered a little bit because we're starting to do some writes across the fast class drives within the environment. Right. We're already at 66%. We could actually get some detailed information on these. So we could actually look at where the regions are moving. And we'll load up the data. Right, so we can see where the regions are moving. And all the way down, you can see we're moving quite a bit of regions, quite a bit of block of data. We can also look at the task detail around the adaptive optimization configuration. Get some detailed information. But again, this is happening. This is a schedulable within the system, and I could set this up for certain periods of time to be able to move these blocks of data. So on an ongoing basis, I can actually tune the data that exists within the infrastructure. Right, and I can have different schedules that run at different times within the environment, maybe something during the day and something at the night. So because this is the only workload that I have actually within this infrastructure attacking the volume, it's actually moved my entire information over to fast class drives. And it's probably moved it, if you remember, I was using fast class drives for both fast as well as my mid tier. So it's probably spread across those two tiers within the environment. But I'm getting a lot more IOPS out of each one of my drives in the environment. And if we actually look at the IOPS counter, we can see that we've significantly spiked up within the environment. If I look at Iometer, you can see we're getting about 4,000 IOPS. So I quadrupled the amount of performance I got on the environment. Again, this is schedulable. I set this up once and I allow it to do this on an ongoing basis without any user interaction. So I'd like to thank you for watching this video, and please stay tuned for more videos.